All right. All right. This is Dave Gagnon. This is our growth leadership meeting for the Gagnon Group. And I do this every week, 11 Eastern Time, 8 Pacific. And looks like we got a bunch of folks in here. So I'm going to let you guys give me the topics that you want to have covered today. I want to cover as many as possible. And if we don't get enough topics, that's okay. I'm prepared to cover um, the process and mindset for talking with broker owners of independent offices. So that's my prepared topic for today. Let me just go to you guys real quick and give me a shout out as to what additional topics you'd like to have today. All right, so I'm going to assume that that is hitting it right on the head. All right, so let me just start with this here, and feel free to jump in with questions along the way. But I think there's a different approach for um, each target group that you would want to have a conversation with. I think agents are the easiest, right? We're doing co-brokes with them. We're seeing how they operate, how they conduct themselves, and it's very easy to tell who would be a good fit and who would not be a good fit as far as behavioral styles, and the type of folks that we would want to be in business with. Um, when we're talking with teams, that's a different mindset, and brokerages are again a entirely different mindset. So let me just go over a couple of things. So first of all, some ground rules on talking to broker owners. The first is you have to identify whether they are a franchise or an independent, and it can be a little sticky. Obviously, if they're, Century 21, ERA, Keller Williams, any of the names that you recognize nationally, then that's an easy no-brainer. Um, Sometimes something can look like a franchise. You might have large regional players that are actually independents, and so they're not a franchise. And so those are, okay to talk to those folks, if they're the broker owner, but they just may be a managing broker. And then there are hundreds of franchises out there that aren't big names. They might be new to your market. They might be, new overall. So if it's something that you don't recognize, take the extra effort, Google it, see what the model is. If they are a franchise, then they're off the table also. And don't be afraid to ask in your initial fact-finding conversations whether ABC Realty is a franchise or an independent. So let's just talk about um, the franchise and tortious interference. So tortious interference is the interference with a company, in this case the franchisor, to make money which has been contracted to be paid to them. Simply put, it works the same way for you as an agent. Let's say you have a contract to sell a home, and you're expecting to receive a commission on that. If someone would interfere with that, come along, tell the homeowner that they could do it for them, for a different fee structure, and they coached them on how to get out of their contract with you so they could take that business, that would be tortious interference. So when a franchisor has a contract with a franchisee, there's a commitment for revenue to change hands for a period of time. We always talk about 5 years. That's fairly standard, but it can be different time frames, right? So one of the large franchises that I know, they do a 5-year initial contract, and then it renews for a 5-year, and the second time it renews, it's for a 10-year. And so, all those end dates are relative to the current situation. So, you need to find that out. And we cannot talk with someone who is under franchise agreement unless they're in what is called their free look period. And that can vary by contract also. Typically, it's 6 months from the end. Um, but only the franchisee and the franchisor would know that. And so if I find myself in a conversation with someone and they're a franchisee, I just let them know, I did not realize that when I called them. I most certainly would not want to, be in violation of tortious interference, and I would respect their contract with their franchisor. Obviously willing to talk with them when they're in their free look period if they would like to, right? And then you extricate yourself from that conversation. There's no cool scripts. There's no, way to, get around it, right? It's a contract. It's a law. We honor that. Just get yourself out of that, out of that conversation. So now we've identified that someone is an independent and that there is no contract for us to worry about. So first, I'm going to talk about. I think there's different buckets to put people in, right? So an independent broker might be someone who has a broker's license. They're on their own and they have no one working under their broker's license. There might be someone who is a large producer and they have a few people. They might be, operating as a broker and running the old-fashioned broker model, which is really today's team model, where they're running a business, they generate leads, they feed those leads out to the people that work under their broker's license. And instead of getting a team split, it's just the broker split, right? So it might be 50-50, 60-40, and the broker's getting that split on all of those people. And then you have the other end of the spectrum is there's a lot of brokerages out there now trying to make money on the short money, right, by giving away incredibly high splits or doing 100% with very low transactional fees. So there's a whole wide gambit there. So I'm going to let you guys ask questions as we go down that path. If you have someone that you're looking to talk to and they fit a particular model and you have questions about. So first of all, I think it makes sense to understand, who it is that you're talking to. Number two, I want you to understand the most common mindsets that I've come across in talking with broker owners. They typically fall into three categories for me. One is they are on the uptick and they are very excited and optimistic where their brokerage is going to go. So they might be in their first year or they might be in a growth phase, and to them it is working exactly as they have planned, and they have big plans for the future, and they believe that their current model is going to get them to where they want to be. Folks that are in this mindset, I have found to not be open to the opportunity, even though they may be open to learning the model. Typically everything is working out exactly as they want. The second kind of mindset is a broker owner or an ownership group that has a model that is mature and everything's working fine and they're happy with it, right? So whatever their ICA model is with their agents, it's all working. They're getting their net that they expect, and to make a change would be a huge change in their philosophy, structure, and those kind of things. And typically, I find even if they're willing to listen, not something that's going to move in the near future. And then there's the folks that have been doing it for a period of time, and it might be a shorter period of time, a couple of years, it might be a longer period of time, but they've come to the realization that their current model is not going to get them where they want to be long term. This group typically is more open to what the options are. And if you're talking with someone in that mindset, it should eventually get to a point where they're talking with someone who's well versed in your upline, right? If you have, someone who's done a number of these between me and you, then definitely get them involved. And if not, then definitely get me involved, because those are great conversations to have, and we've had wonderful broker owners make the move over and are having great success here. So, knowing those stories, being able to connect people has a ton of value. And so, just to and because I'm recording it, I just want to be able to get some of these out there. We've had people who have had franchises get to the end of their franchise period, decide they were not going to stay with their franchise model because it was not giving them the value that they wanted. And then they were open to exploring what the other possibilities are. And we've had people come over, with 20, 25 agents and grow that to over 100 agents in a fairly short period of time. We've had independents come over where they come over with 40 agents, and in 7, 8, 9 months they're already up around 200, 250, and growing at a rapid rate. Um, um, Sometimes just being able to get out of the brokerage support mode allows someone to get back into production, where that's where they made the bulk of their money before they opened their brokerage. So um, there's a lot of opportunity in the brokerages. If and again, you shouldn't be cold calling and dialing into everybody and all that stuff. But the people that the people that you have a relationship with, you shouldn't be worried about making the reach out and having that initial conversation. Um, and so I want to share approach conversations with you guys in a minute. Before I do that, I just want to open it up to any questions that you guys might have about anything that I've covered so far.
Excuse me, Dave. I got a question about approaching some of these brokers. I've seen in some of the other sessions that you've held, and some of the other rev share groups where they talk to some of these brokers who were doing really, really well. They're really happy with where they were, and then they ultimately decided to come on board EXP. And what I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is when these guys are doing well for themselves, what is the motivating factor for them to want to go ahead and come on board, and how can I share that with them so it comes across, logically to them, if at all possible?
Sure. Really good question, right? So, and that becomes, I'll tie that into the dialogue that I was going to share with you guys on the approach, because I think it ties into why they might make a change. And so, whether we're already operating in an area or coming into a new area, um, I think there's a lot of value in brokers understanding the model and how it may change the landscape of competing for agent affiliation, right? And so if I were calling a broker in an area, let's say the broker's name is Fred, I would say, hey, Fred, I'm Dave Gagnon with EXP. The reason why I'm calling is I'm working on expanding EXP here in the area. And as a broker owner, I think there'd be a lot of value in you understanding the model that we're bringing to the area, because your agents are going to hear about it, and it's either going to be highly competitive with what you're doing, or it's not. But I'd like you to know before I start really getting into it in the marketplace here. Do you have time to talk now, or would you like a meeting later in the week? And so I'm positioning it that they should at least know what the model is. And then when I'm having that conversation with them, I want you to look at the model from the agent's perspective first, And is this something that you think agents in the area are going to gravitate towards? I think they will, right? That's been how it's gone across the country. And so, as a local leader, I'd like to have the opportunity for us to work together in order to share the story. And of course, your agents who make the move over because of you, right? There's a benefit there for that. But also other business owners and other agents that you're going to introduce to the model, there's expansion opportunity for that. And so I like using the story of Mitch. Mitch had two bricks and mortar offices and had about 50 agents when we started the process of really digging into it. Um, and Mitch actually went backwards to the tune of about 200,000, right? So his net on what he had going on was about 200,000 to the positive. By making the move over and turning over all brokerage operations, he was not in a position where he could get rid of all his bricks and mortar and all of his overhead, right? So he still had some overhead, which a lot of brokerages that move over, they can get rid of everything, right? So that's a big plus. But with long-term contracts, those kind of things, sometimes they can't. And so by having the agents come over, be direct to EXP, getting rev share and all that stuff, it was about a $200,000 step backwards. However, it freed up 50, 60 hours a week. And so now he has that to do other pursuits. And is that worth more? In his case, yes. It also allows for him to be in business with people who are also building their company within the company. And so that's growing Mitch's company in the company. And I apologize, Mitch, for not knowing your numbers exactly, but I think you're somewhere around 250 or so. And I forget whether you're coming up on 300 or not. But I know some of the amazing people that Mitch is in business with. And I know that we have a group of 45 that have committed to come over, another independent brokerage. We just had one of independent brokerage of 15 come over. We have one over 100 that is working on the process of coming over. So just right there. And I know they're growing at something like 20, 30 people a month or so. And that doesn't include those big partners that are coming over too. So I believe there's no way that Mitch doesn't hit like 750 to 1,000 by the end of the year. And now he's making as much as he was running his brokerage, right? So it took him since August of last year. And so here we are in mid-May, right? So August, September, October, November, December, January, May, that's 10 months, right? And so in 10 months, he was able to fully replace the income that he was making before, but he's freed up all of his time, right? Most business owners would take that deal every day, right? That it's like I can make the same money and have none of the risk, none of the responsibility, um, none of the time constraints. And I can do that in the next 10 to 12 months if I do it right, if I do it like Mitch did. That's very attractive, right? So even though in that case, David, Mitch was making money, this gives him the opportunity to make money in a different way and to be able to grow bigger than he could. Also in Mitch's case, he had been running his brokerage for like 12 years. And so in 10 months, he's been able to put himself into a position of generating the same revenue that took him 12 years. And so, and not to be, too forward facing or whatever, but I think if you asked Mitch today, does he think that his group will be larger 10 months from now, 12 years from now than it is today? I believe he would optimistically say a resounding yes, right? And so someone could continue doing the grind or they could do something different. And I think that's what the opportunity here represents, is a way to leverage other leaders. when I'm talking to, and let me stop there, and then I'll go into the next piece. David, does that help?
Yeah, yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and Howard threw in there that Mitch always says that he wished he had joined sooner. Howard met him 2 years before Mitch started talking to us with sincere conversations, right? And so I think there's a lesson in there too. Broker owners today, you start talking with them, and if they're not ready today, it doesn't mean no, it just means not now. And the other thing that I talk to broker owners about is, if they've been in the business for any period of time, which most broker owners have been, I ask them, what did the last down market look like for them? And I'm going to have a conversation about it. It might be a 5-minute conversation, it might be a half-hour conversation, right? But most people that I know that have run successful brokerages make good money when the market is good, right? Meaning we have good inventory, quick turn times, good interest rates, right? They make good money. And then almost everyone that I know that has owned a brokerage in a bad market has gone all the way down to almost declaring bankruptcy, right? They have to sell all their assets, try to renegotiate long-term commitments, and I know plenty that went into bankruptcy, right? Whether it was a restructure and they come out the other side, or whether it was, to shut the whole thing down, or maybe they sold their business for almost nothing to another brand and got absorbed, whatever it might be. But down markets, typically crush dreams. And so if someone lived through that before and they have a good war story about it, I ask them, when do they think the market's going to shift again? And most people say as soon as this year or next year, and some people will say 3 to 5 years. And then I'm going to ask them, what are they doing today to be in a different position in the next down market? And I want to have a good conversation about that. So even if my first meeting with someone is, what was the last recession like and what's the next recession going to be like, that'll lead to another conversation, right? I want you to take a look at the model. I want you to ask yourself, will most agents in this area find this compelling? And do you want to be a competitor against this model, or do you want to leverage this model to help us grow? Because that really becomes the decision at the point that we're coming into their marketplace. Now, we're in 320 MLSs today. I think we have another 60 or 80 that we're pending in right now, and we continue to grow, right? And so we might have been in a local market for a year or 2 or 3 or 5, and maybe we only have a few people and we don't have anyone who's on an expansion team. We don't have anyone who is setting aside time on a daily or weekly basis to share the model and the concept and the story. And so someone might think, oh, EXP is just this little thing and it's nothing. And yeah, I watched a video 5 years ago. I'm not worried about it. But if you're a growth leader coming to that area, or you attract a growth leader coming to that area, and they are spending time on it, and they are credible, and they are telling the story, and all of that, then the market is going to shift in a very quick way, right? And so I always feel that we owe it to our fellow competitors that they should know what it is. They should have the option to join what we're doing if they're a good fit. And trust me, not everyone is. I'm very big on people who are nice. And if I'm talking to someone and they're that gruff, hard-edged, person who I don't enjoy talking to, I have a shorter conversation. We most certainly don't need to attract everyone. I'll leave them for somebody else. I'm going to spend my time with people I enjoy talking with. All right, let me open it up for questions. Susie wants to talk about Compass. All right, Susie, are you in a place where you can open up your mic?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can. That's great.
Hi
Um,
there. Hi, everybody.
hey, Susie. Yeah, so Compass, right? Their deal is they will offer a bucket of cash for someone to sign a long-term contract with them, right? Do you know anything different about their model, Susie?
That's what I was wondering if there was any intel here. I know that yes, they're basically they're spending all their seed money on buying um, top producing agents and their teams. However, I'm mystified by the part where they say they are a tech-driven company. So I was wondering, what exactly, if anyone knows what their technology might be,
Um,
and how's
yes.
it better or different than what we have, other than they have a graphic designer on staff? I've heard from one of my contact that they have a marketing, have marketing support,
Mhm.
but I don't know what the tech aspects.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If someone has already signed with Compass, right, they'll be able to tell you what their perceived value is, and they'll be able to share what their deal is. I have not seen a Compass contract. I haven't come across anyone who's currently with them. Um, but I have competed in markets where that is the expansion strategy, where the owner will reach out to agents based on their production, offer them a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 signing bonus if they sign a contract. And typically it's a 5-year contract. And trust me, it is always um, a huge return on investment if the agent comes over and performs at the same level. Um, and the contracts that I've seen are ironclad. Getting out of them cost far more than what the bonus has been. So I suspect it's the same kind of thing, right? So if someone's already in, Compass, they're probably locked down, and there's better, easier opportunities to talk to. If someone is considering Compass, then they can share with you what the proposal is, and I'm happy to brainstorm and strategize around how our model competes with it. Um, the, uh, um, the difference is this, they are a brokerage that is looking to control agents, right? So they're looking to buy them, and they're looking to buy market share. That's as simple as it is. Ours is opportunity based, right? Our agents are the brand. Our agents are growing their business. Our agents have true stock in the company, not stock options, right? In their model, it's options where the agent has the right to buy stock. Our stock purchase program is 20% discount over what it's traded for in the last 30 trading days. Um, I think it's a better opportunity all the way around. And then with revenue share for those agents that are going to help us grow, the model here is far superior in every way. So I just think it's another competitor. It's just another flavor. But if I were talking with someone who had an offer on the table that they were considering, I would, ask to do a consultation with them and walk them through the comparison. And if you have someone like that, Susie, I'm happy to do that with them. Just so we can have the documentation and train for it in here. But I haven't had the opportunity to do that with anyone who hasn't signed.
Okay, I'll work on that. I have a meeting next week, so I'll get a deeper dive.
Okay. Yep. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yep. And then Maria asked, in regards to Remax, are some franchised or independent? I don't know of any Remaxes that are, and they wouldn't be independent. They would be either corporately owned or they would be franchises. And I don't know if Remax has any corporate owned stores. That's typically not how their model works. Um, so if it's a Remax, my assumption and expectation is they're a franchise. What else do you guys have on talking with brokers? I am not. Maria is asking, am I familiar with Pearson and Smith? I am not. But if you're talking with someone, they'll typically share their independent contractors agreement, so you can take a look at the model. And let's see what else you guys got. Yeah, any questions that you guys have on, someone, a brokerage specific, um, um, you know, it varies market to market. So when I was expanding brokerages for my former company, I did 7 different markets, right? So in every market, um, uh, I would go into, and you would call agents in all of the brokerages and gather what the information is, right? What's the split? Is there a cap? If so, what is it? Is there a royalty fee? If so, what is it? Do the top producers have different contracts than the lower producers? What's the fee structure? What tools or benefits do they gain by being there? Is there profit share or rev share? Is there stock? What's their training schedule look like? What are the top 3 things that agents love about that brokerage, and what are the top 3 things that they complain about that brokerage? And so whenever I went into a new market, my first 30 days was finding out about the market. And so if you're wherever you guys are located, you should know that in your local market, because those are the, 1,000 agents you should be talking to the most. And the more you know, the easier it is to have meaningful conversations. What happens sometimes is, because we have no borders and no restrictions, we're talking to someone, even like a Keller Williams. If I talk to a Keller Williams in my hometown, their cap is 27,500 plus the franchise fee. If I talk to the franchise owner that is 20 miles south, not even that, 15 miles south, their cap is 24 plus 3. And if I go 45 minutes to the east, then they are 21,000 plus 3. So and then the Remax owners all can be different. Century 21 can all be different, right? So to know what anyone is doing, across the country, we really can't do that in here. But you can be the local expert and find out what's there, find out what the agents love about it, right? What's holding them there. Find out what they don't like about it. Those are the things that would help move them away, and then sharing with them other things that they haven't considered, like equity, like revenue share, like the way we do training, like the cap, like the high split, whatever it might be. So, it's really a high touch activity, and it's hyper local in your expertise. And if you're talking to someone, 100 miles away, it is more work, because you need to find out how their model is working for them locally. Joe is asking, how do you break the ice and get agents from different offices to show up at a EXP lunch and learn where they are going to see each other? Really good question. So first of all, I think it depends on how you're doing your lunch and learns, right? So there's a couple of different ways to do lunch and learns. One is value add, sponsored by EXP Realty, right? And so you're doing a 1 or 2 hour event on a topic that all agents would like to learn about, right? Whether your forte is doing probate, internet lead generation, how to use KV Core, how to work FISBOs or expireds, how to build your sphere of influence, 101 ways to lead generate, how to leverage Facebook, whatever it may be, right? There's a topic that all agents would like to come and learn about, and it's sponsored by EXP. And so a lot of people who are doing that kind of format, they have a course, it's free, or people are paying, $10 or $15, which includes their lunch, or lunch is sponsored, and so the training is free, lunch is free. They have a mortgage company, title company, some other partner sponsoring lunch, the room, those kind of things. And so people come in, and everyone is there to get the training. And so people don't care who else in their office sees them there or who across town sees them there. And then during lunch, while people are eating, let everyone get up, get a plate, they sit down, they're eating, and assume that you have about 20 minutes if they're wolfing down their food. So you got, a short window to talk about the 4 pillars, talk about a couple things about EXP and to let them know that you're excited to be expanding in the area and all of that. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to do all value add with no EXP explained, and the value add is your lead generation, right? So again, I do a value add. I invite people to come in, and I'm going to do 101 ways to lead generate, or I'm going to do internet lead conversion, or something that people would be interested in. I do a class. It's an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. I have a sponsor. We feed them. And we don't even mention EXP other than sponsored by EXP Realty. So the name's out there. I have a drawing, everyone signs up, everyone puts in a business card, whatever it is. So now if I have 50 people show up and I got to meet everyone, I shook everyone's hand, right? There are some people I'm going to meet that I'm not going to invite to join. There are some people that I'm impressed by, and those are the people that I'm going to call. So I'm going to use my same dialogue, right? I'm going to lead with CATS, which is compliment first. And so I met them. Now I know the people that I want to have a meeting with. I do some research on them. I check out their website. I check out their LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. And now I'm giving them a call and letting them know why I want to have a call with them, right? But I got to meet them. I got to break the ice. I got to start building a relationship with them because I did a training event. The third way to do it is I am doing a business opportunity presentation. And I'm inviting you to come learn about what EXP is all about so you can ask great questions. And so, it's just bold, and this is what I'm doing. And so typically I'm not doing that and inviting all the agents to it. I'm doing that and I'm inviting the leaders. And so, when I went around and I did the Rock the Comma Tour events, what I told everyone is what I want you to do is I want you to reach out to the influencers in the market, to the leaders in the market. These are going to be the iconic agents. This is going to be, the independent broker owners, the people who are running teams, those kind of folks, right? And we're bringing them in to share with them what the business opportunity looks like. Those people typically are more confident in their skin. They understand that everybody who's in the room is gathering information. They're not worried if their broker knows they're there, or even if their broker's in the room, right? Because they're comfortable. They know they're an independent contractor. Anyone in town would be happy to have them. Or they own their own brokerage and they don't care if someone else sees them there. So if someone's worried, right, if someone says, boy, I'd really like to learn more, but I don't want to come to your event, perfect, I'll do it one-on-one, right? So if someone doesn't want to be in public, just do it as a one-on-one. Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Hey Dave, can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah, John, please.
So on the lunch and learn, if we were to do an event and then have lunch, are we telling them up front, hey, we're going to talk a little bit about EXP? If you letting them know up front, or are we just dumping it on them? Kind of what's the process there?
Well, so honesty is always the best policy, right? And if you're tricking anybody, I think that establishes a poor relationship. And so if I'm going to do an event and I'm going to use that event to talk a little bit about EXP, I'm telling them that. If I'm doing the same event and I'm using it to get to know people, which opens up for a follow-up call, then I'm not doing a song and dance on EXP. And I'm not saying I'm going to do it, right? But I'm sure everybody has gone to a free event done by somebody like a Tony Robbins or whatever. You go, you get entertained, you learn some things that you could implement in your business, and you have to know that somebody somewhere is going to contact you about getting into the coaching program or buying products, right? So I would never do an event where I was springing upon them a presentation about EXP.
All right. Why Joe asked that is there's 3 or 4 of us here in Medford are just trying to figure out what's the best way to do
Yeah.
provide it for not only us but for the other folks in our group.
Yeah, there's a lot of different philosophies on that. With the agent attraction pledge, I want to ensure that everyone has read the pledge and is operating within the full integrity of that, right? And so, we're only presenting slides that are approved. We're only using scripting that's approved, right? So for me, even though I went and I did a lot of Rock the Comma tour events for myself personally, I've never done one for myself personally, right? Mine has always been I'm going to do the research on someone. I'm going to reach out to them. I'm going to set up one-on-one conversation. If they're local, I want to do a face-to-face with them. And if they're not local, then I'm going to get them into the cloud office, and I'm going to, work them through the process. That's what I've always done. If I were looking to go into a new area where I didn't know anybody and I wanted to start, building a relationship, I would, do a session, and I want to get to meet as many people as I can. Getting a bunch of people in a room to do the presentation to, isn't what I'm looking to do. It does work. There's a lot of people that are working it, and we did the Rock the Comma Tour events, and that helped a lot of people get some momentum with them. But the Rock the Comma Tour events were, Dave's been helping to grow the company. He's been very successful with it, and he's coming to share his story, and I'd like you to come meet him. Right? They were coming to hear the story. They were coming to meet me. And so, for me, there's much more value in someone knowing that they're coming to learn about what we're doing. So I would use an event to get to know people, which would lead to one-on-ones, or I would do an event where I'm bringing everyone in so they can hear about the presentation. And then David asked, is there a limit to the number of people at a lunch and learn? No. I think the biggest one I did was like 78 people or 80 people or something like that. And that was an event that Aaron Browning and Barbara Hendrickson and some other leaders pulled together up there. I did a number of them for Theo Harris and Chris Highland and Scott Smith and their leadership group, where I did a small one in the morning, I did another small one in the afternoon, I did a medium one, at a happy hour, and then the next day 2 more. I think the record was 5 in 2 days or something like that. I was worn out, right? But it was this group is over here and this group is 15 miles away and this one was 20 miles away, and all that kind of stuff. But I think we've seen, really good growth in that group. And so continuing to do that, continuing to have people show up is powerful. I think one of the greatest values of doing lunch and learns is that you can have your people um, um, get people in front of you, right? So if you're looking to do it for you to get people in front of yourself, um, I don't, for me personally, I don't see value in that. Because if I'm going to call 20 people and I'm going to invite them to come do a lunch and learn with me, I would just ask them to watch my video, right? They're all going to see the same thing. It's one off. Then I get follow-up time and I can do my needs analysis with them. What are you doing now? What's working? What's not working? How can we work together? Kind of thing. So that's my mode of operation. But if I'm working with, let's say, Heidi on building her group, if Heidi can get 10 people to come meet me, I'll do that for her every single week. And then they can bring people in and all of that. I think that's the power of the Lunch and Learn, is that if you're doing Wealth Building Wednesdays or something like that, and I can rattle off a dozen people at least that are doing that every week, where everyone on your team is inviting people to come meet you every Wednesday at lunch, and you're putting on a lunch and you're sharing with them the EXP opportunity. That has a lot of value, because now you're teaching people how to be a tractologist, and all they have to do is invite them to come meet you. But I think if you're the one doing it and you're the leader, I think those are one-offs, and those are the flow that we teach works very well for that. But if you have a little group in an area, Joe and John and Scott, if you now have 25, 30 people in that area, if you get them each to bring one person a week to come meet you guys and to learn about what's happening, now, right, you're presenting to a lot. You got the dialogues going, and then you want to break them into individual meetings and help them over their final queries and make them move over. So I think there's a lot of value if you're using those events to teach your people how to attract people to you, where you can do your thing. Devin asks, do more people or less people make it more effective? For me, if it's going to be less people, I would rather do 4 one-on-ones if it's going to be 4 people. If I'm going to do a group, I've always asked for it to be 25 people, and I don't care whether that's folks that are already with the company, and maybe there's 10 or 12 of them, and they're each bringing someone, so there's about 25 people in the room. I think 25 can start to be exciting. I think one of the things that is critically important is the room needs to be a proportionate size to the number that you expect. And so I've done them where we've had 25 people in the room, but the room holds 65. And everyone is sitting 2 or 3 seats apart, and they got their feet up on a seat, everyone's kicked back. It's very lackadaisical, no energy in the room. And then I remember I did one for Aaron Browning, and I think he had maybe 28 people in the room, but the room only held 20. And it was at a Italian restaurant. They were bringing in other tables. They were bringing in other chairs. People were all crowded in, and the electricity was palpable, right? And I think we had 10 people sign up out of that event that day. And it was the same presenter. It was the same content. It was the same caliber of people, right? But the energy was different. So I think the room size is important. And if it's going to be a small group, I think you're just better off, one-on-one.
Dave, also to follow up on that, Jim, as far as when you're doing those lunch and learns for someone like Aaron, whoever, those are the lunch and learns that are about the business opportunity. It's not just added value.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And this will be the last thing that I do for this session today. This is just my experience. So when I started doing them, the first couple I did with a value add um, uh, take on it, right? So it was lead generation, right? How to generate more leads. And what I like to do is, the half hour before the event, there's, coffee, maybe you got cookies or something like that, bagels or something, right? So people are showing up, they're getting a coffee, there's an opportunity to socialize. And so what I always tried to do was to shake everybody's hand, right? Introduce myself, get their name, ask them two questions. How long have you been in the business and how's it going? And what I found is most of the people who were coming to how to create more leads were struggling in the business. Either they were newer and not making money, or they've been in the business for a period of time and they weren't making money, right? And so, and that's okay. We have great solutions here, right? But all the audience was about the same. And there were a couple of leader types, right? But predominantly, they were people who needed the training um, more than the opportunity. Um, and so I decided not to do those anymore. And so I just did the business opportunity presentation, and I wanted people who are coming to come to meet me to hear, how it's been going. And in those sessions, I was meeting with broker owners, rainmakers, team leaders, icon agents, um, people with good branding, um, and all of that. And so the caliber of people who came out of those meetings have been able to grow locally, which means for the people that I helped with those meetings, they now have momentum, right? And so, over the next, month or 3 months, you most certainly can go attract 10 people. I mean, it's not that hard if you're putting in the effort and energy, so long as people know you, like you, and trust you, right? Those are the things that you can control. And that's how you present yourself. It's how you talk. It's how you carry yourself, all of those kind of things. And we all can get a little bit better at those things. But um, um, if we add business leaders, then you can have business units that function without you. And whether I'm pointing to Hank Avink or Aaron Browning or Mitch or I think we got about 50 people now in our group that operate at a very high level, without me, right? And they figured it out. And so, if you're attracting those caliber of people, you now have people who are working at building their business unit, but they're in your business unit, right? And that's where the magic happens, in my opinion. And so that ties into the caliber of people that you attract, and the caliber of people you attract will be driven by your subject matter. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for the participation and the questions. Keep it going. Let me know how I can help you guys grow. And I'm going to be doing next week from the road, and looking forward to talking to everyone. And I'm hoping between now and the next week that we're going to get our private Facebook group moved over to Workplace. So pay attention to that. And also, we got approval to do our one-day growth event in New Orleans. That's going to be on Sunday before the convention, and I'm just waiting for the contract to come back. I have to make one more modification in the contract. So once I get that signed, which I'm hoping will be today or tomorrow, then I'll be putting up the Eventbrite. It's going to be $99 for a full day to come in. So be looking for that. There's only going to be 150 tickets, and so I'm going to offer it out to you guys first, but only hold it for a few days, and then the next week I'll be offering it out to all of our guest speakers to invite their key people. So anyway, wanted to get that out to you guys. Thanks for everything. Let's keep it growing. Bye-bye.